and welcome to another edition of It's Your Time You're Wasting with me, David Didow, and the ever debonair Martin Robinson. Martin, why are you playing your face?
I was just making little faces there. I think we need to put this there, really.
Oh, yeah. No, that's big news.
I can see your belly button.
I know. Yeah,
I
it's not
just
very
realised
flattering.
that.
Yeah, there it is, poking out, or not.
Poking in. It's an innie, by the looks of it.
It is an innie. Yeah, I'm afraid
if
so.
you're listening to us, you don't know what the hell's going on. Don't worry.
The picture of me
David
in the
hasn't
nude.
gone naked. There's a picture of him running a marathon. Finishing a marathon, no less. Do you want to talk about it?
Finishing the Newport Marathon on Sunday. So proud moment. I can now officially describe myself as a marathon runner. Although earlier Martin said maybe I can't because it took place in Wales and therefore doesn't count.
No,
so
English, a marathon runner in this country, you said. I mean, what's the country?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, is it 1% of people in this country?
1% of people globally apparently is the figure. I'm a little bit dubious about that. I did some digging into that if you're interested.
No.
But I won't bore. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. No.
But that's quite a high figure though of formal marathon running, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. It's probably not true.
But there's probably people who do a lot of running, unceremoniously in the outback.
Well, so it's based on
savannah or something.
Yeah. So basically, it's because there's around about sort of 1.3 million marathon finishes each year, but probably there are some repeat people. So actually, it's probably a bit lower.
Repeat people
doing more than one marathon.
Oh, is that cheating? For statistics reasons.
Well,
it's just that with it.
I don't think anyone's bothered to try and go through the list of names to work out unique finishes. They must have thought that
most of them are doing it more than once. Not most of them, quite a few of them.
Quite a few of them.
You would have thought. Yeah. I mean, Paula Radcliffe, she did it more than once. It's not cheating, is it? It's not screwing up the figures.
And she ran a lot of marathons.
She did. And had a poo. Famously had a poo.
Oh, Martin.
It wasn't. It's true.
Martin.
As did Gary Lineker, just to balance it out.
What?
Had a poo during a football match.
Did he?
Yes, in the semi-finals of the World Cup.
Did he?
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Did he? Yeah, apparently so.
Gary Lineker?
Yeah.
Gary Walker's Chris Lineker?
Yeah. Leicester City.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So, by the way, if you're a Leicester City fan, my commiserations with you being unceremoniously kicked out of the championship, and something I might have to think about in the near future with Tottenham's precarious position in the Premier League. But that's for another day. David, what are we talking about today?
Creativity, Martin.
Well-known superhero character.
Creativity, comma. Martin. Do you want to design your costume, Martin? That would be a nice creative task for you. No, we've been fascinated, if that's the right word, with a recent report from the OECD on creativity. They asked some 15-year-olds some questions to try and measure how creative they were, and then they've come up with a great graph. I think you've got a picture of the graph that you're going to put over my face.
I've got a table. Picture of a table.
A picture of a table. Well, it's almost as good as a graph.
Not a table, obviously.
No, not an actual table.
No,
so for listeners, this is like a list of countries with scores attached. What are the scores on the doors? It's Singapore's at the top.
This is why I needed my glasses here. So we've got Singapore at number 1 with a mean score of 41. And we go all the way down to Albania with a mean score of 13. But it does...
And what's that score saying? Tell everyone about the table, Martin. And then we'll have a bit of a thing.
It's comparing. It says it's comparing countries and economies' performance in creative thinking, and you've got 3 different bits to
Some
it,
colour coding,
statistically above the OECD average, not statistically different from the OECD average, and statistically below the OECD average. And you'll be pleased to know that United Kingdom doesn't feature anywhere in the entire table.
Yeah, no creative thinking in Britain.
And nothing.
And no economic performance
no,
either.
That's right.
No, well done, Keir Starmer.
So,
very good.
Well, yeah.
So
what's going on there?
But the reason, obviously, for the nations of Britain not appearing on that table is because they chose not to.
We don't give a shit.
They weren't represented. Yeah. We didn't take part in the sampling. But what I find absolutely, I was sort of looking into this, going, that's quite an interesting. How have they worked that out? And the way they worked that out is that they have looked at the score of the sample group of 15-year-olds who took the creativity test, and then they've predicted into the future about what effect that might have on the economies of those countries.
So
it's a work of creativity in itself.
Well, the creative thinking about creative.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
I was prepared to believe it had sort of a little bit more basis in reality than that, but no.
Is there anything they've extrapolated from, like in the past, 15-year-olds?
No.
Did this
I mean, as far as I can tell. So if anyone's looked into this in a bit more depth than I have, or if anyone from PISA wants to contradict my take, basically they're saying the future economies need to be more creative because routine work, obviously, it's being automated by AI. That's going to eat your job. And it's speculating that higher creative thinking scores on their tests that some 15-year-olds did may matter to economic innovation. But the table isn't showing growth or productivity. It's only showing a guess.
Yeah.
That's my take.
Yeah.
We've also... Yeah, go on.
Go on. No, what is... You say it's a guess. What is the point if we all know that this is very unlikely to be based on anything particularly strong? Why are people paying them to do this?
I mean, that's a really good question. And maybe explains why some countries don't appear on it. Maybe they thought not worth paying for this analysis. But I think it's flattering to those that do well on it. It obviously has some political ends that I've just noticed, Martin, your name's up and mine's gone.
Yes, I got rid of you.
Just in case anyone forgets who Martin is. Is a handy reminder on the screen.
I'll have to have a word with the technician.
Have a word. Have a word. Martin does all of the technical. I think round of applause for Martin. He does everything short of
thinking for himself.
Coming up. Yeah, he pretty much does everything round here. I tend to sort out the kind of running order for what we're going to talk about. But Martin does literally, at the last minute. Martin sends me ideas during the week or the fortnight or whatever the gap is between shows.
Months.
And I garble it into some sort of pro forma. And then Martin does literally everything else.
Yeah. Do you ever use AI in your creativity?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so is this a relation? You talked about AI in the creativity of these countries, or as AI as a replacement of creativity? I mean, what's the?
Well, I mean,
do we actually know what they're doing with that, or are we?
Yeah. Well, shall we first talk about how they've measured it?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds. But they are talking about AI in this. I didn't realise that. I thought it was just 15-year-olds being creative.
No, they're not. It's basically part of their kind of rhetoric is, AI is coming for you guys. You've got to be. We need resilient. Human creativity.
But we don't know if we do we? But anyway,
well,
economically.
Maybe. I mean, who knows? It's
how do they measure it?
Speculation. How do they measure it? Well, they asked 15-year-olds. They gave them a test.
Should we show
in
the
the countries
bees?
that were participating. Yeah, we've got a sample of some of their questions. This is taken from their own documentation. We haven't made this up. So one question was about bees and the fact that bees need saving. I'll just read this to you.
Can you read that? Because it's for
Yeah.
those who can't read it.
I'm sure all our listeners can read, but maybe if they're not
can't read this because they can't see it.
No, exactly. So bees play an important role in growing the foods that support ecosystems and people around the world. The Save the Bees Club at your school is looking for ways to increase awareness about the important role of bees for these ecosystems. Over the next few questions, you'll be asked to share your own ideas to help the Save the Bees Club at your school.
Your creative ideas, no less.
Yeah, well, just ideas. And then they measure how creative those ideas are. Do you know, we've got another one after we talk about that. So this is another question. So there was the bees one, quite a creative idea that there might be a Save the Bees Club at your school, but yeah, I'm sure
there is in most schools.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
So here's another one, which is to fill in some captions on a space comic.
I'm going to look for that one. Is this?
Oh, no. Okay. While we're waiting for this.
There it is.
There it is. Very nicely over Martin's face. So it's the sun talking to the earth, and you've got to put some words in the caption. So the sun's saying something and the earth's replying. The sun's really big and orange, and the earth's fragile and small looking.
It's not only is it fragile and small, it's frighteningly close.
To the sun, yeah. Wow.
I think there wouldn't be much talking about at that point. It would just be dying.
You can imagine the sun, I'm doing my own creative, the spunk's going, hello, Earth, and the Earth going, fuck off a bit, you're too close.
But it's not, though, is it? Because the sun wouldn't move. It's the Earth being too close.
Yeah,
I'm being pedantic.
But they wouldn't have eyes either. They've got googly eyes, basically, also, listeners. Anyway, so what 15-year-olds did is they answered those questions, and then the assessors just measured how creative those responses were by looking at whether anyone else had said the same thing. And the more unique
bearing in mind,
the more unique your answer was,
the
more creative it was deemed.
Hang on, I mean, so this is also. What about cultural differences here? I mean,
so obviously that was broken down by territory. So if you want to have a look, we can put some links up to this. You can look at those questions in an array of different languages.
And the answers in an array of different languages. I mean, yeah. So look.
So if you said same as me there, like hello Earth, go away, you're a bit close. We would both, if we had both said that, we would be deemed less creative than if only one of us had said that.
Right. Yeah.
Even though it's objectively
so if I just
shit.
Said zibbity bobbity boo bong, bing.
So creative.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So if only.
How do you think of that, Martin?
It's amazing, isn't
it? Can you remember it?
Of course not. But who needs to remember it? It's there. Yeah. It's recorded. It's there for posterity.
No, that's true. Yeah, people can just play back the recording to find out Martin's creative response. And I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that would be deemed very creative. Obviously, you're not a 15-year-old.
But the likelihood now that England would be at top of the list of economic performance in a few years' time because of me.
Absolutely top.
Because of my response. But I'm too old. I'm not 15.
You are. Yeah, only just. But no, you're not. So that runs contrary to most definitions of creativity. Most people who try and measure creativity, you try and do it a little bit better than that.
It's got unique, isn't it? It wasn't Ken Robinson's description or something that it's got to be unique.
Well, he says that, but even the late great Sir Ken said it's got to be unique and it's got to be worthwhile.
Yes.
So zibbity bobbity boo down.
It's not worthwhile. How can you judge what is it's not worthwhile? For a start, it's created a lot of discussion here.
Yeah. So for the purposes of this show, it had worth. But in terms of, selling a lot of space comics, I don't know whether it would.
So creativity has to be
Anyway,
linked to capitalism. Is that it?
wow.
That's
I
what
think
this is about.
it is a bit, isn't it? So what they're explicitly doing, and they talk about this in the paper. They talk about the concept of big C and little c creativity. Do you know about big C and little c creativity, Martin?
I know about cancer, the big C.
What? Oh no. Okay. Well, it's not that.
Right.
So Kaufman and Bagetto came up with an expansion to this, which they called the 4C model. I can't remember off the top of my head who came up with the 2C model, the big C and little c model. I need to look that up. But latterly there was a 4C model, which was mini C, little c, pro C, and big C. And it basically, they all fall into different categories. So the little c creativity is essentially everyday creativity, like, oh, I've got some asparagus and some gorgonzola in the fridge. What about if I combined those and made a meal? And then big C creativity is like, what if I came up with a cure for cancer? So they're saying that they're only measuring little c creativity, like everyday little creativity, whatever we think that is. So explicitly, they're not trying to make any claims about literary invention or scientific originality or artistic excellence or anything like
OECD,
that.
you mean?
OECD, yeah. So they're deliberately measuring something smaller, and they say that that's all a large scale international comparison can hope to standardize. So
hang on. The little c creativity that we all take part in every day of our lives, every single one of us, is the only thing they can measure.
Yeah.
They can't measure it.
No. Well, what they can measure is the uniqueness of 15-year-olds' response to their questions. That's what they've measured. So that's all they can measure. So like pretty much every definition of creativity that you'll find includes usually more than novelty as part of its criteria. So the American Psychobabble Association, the APA, I've forgotten what they, that lot, they say ideas that, those guys, ideas that are both new and useful in particular situations. And that's very similar to Ken Robinson's formulation, originality and worthwhileness. But the point is, novelty's not enough. You could just say any old cobblers like we're doing right now, and pass it off as creativity. The flow guy,
Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
Well done, good effort. I'm sure that's right, but Csikszentmihalyi's. I know. It's really, I need a pronunciation guide for that. Apologies.
I just told you. Anyway, go on.
Oh, did you get it right? Do it again. Do it again.
I think so. No, I can't do it again.
What?
Once I've done it, that's it. It's like my
other word.
That was
a creative pronunciation,
that's my other
wasn't
word.
It?
My zippity-doo-dah bong or whatever it was.
Okay. Well, he has, I like his definition. Yeah, I'm sure that's right.
No, it is.
Csikszentmihalyi.
No.
Okay. No?
Csikszentmihalyi.
Csikszentmihalyi.
Oh, for goodness sake. Look.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry.
It's bordering on embarrassing now. Go on, carry on.
It's not just bordering, it's in the same country. He said creativity comes from the interaction of person, domain, and field. And there's some interesting ideas there about, within the domain in which you're trying to be creative, that has to be accepted by the field that domain exists within. If we were to be judged as a creative podcast...
Can we just hold on there? Because just because people throw definitions around doesn't mean it actually works. And if we look at Van Gogh and Van Gogh, or however you want to pronounce his name,
it's easier
in his time, he wasn't accepted. He wasn't accepted.
No, so the field rejected Van Gogh.
Yeah, so it's also in a time scale as well,
Well, it is, but obviously the field now welcomes Van Gogh in.
Yeah.
So,
Now it does.
so
not in his lifetime.
Not in his lifetime. So it's nothing about lifetime per se. So it's all that's to say is that definition has a social dimension to creativity as well. So it's not just I've got a good idea, I think it's worthwhile. It's that other people do too.
Yeah.
Even if I've died.
But then you've got to get into other things like the facts is you've got the contacts, you've got this, that, and the other. It doesn't mean you're necessarily more creative than. It might be that there's very creative people out there who are being extraordinarily creative and just overlooked.
No, and that's all true. But it's
important because if you're just measuring creativity as a thing in itself, you're not. You're also the social dimension is actually one of Nepo babies. Creating something compared to somebody else creating something.
Yeah, no, it could be, but it doesn't have to be. So, for instance, in that OECD test, if they'd asked these 15-year-olds to come up with their answers and then somehow done some sort of comparative judgment exercises, getting them to rate the worth of other people's responses, that would have given you an idea of the field, that whether other 15-year-olds think your idea is any cop, even though they know nothing about you, would give you an extra metric to make your judgment on creativity.
Okay, so I mean,
Sorry, I just did a weird thing of my tongue.
Did you? I didn't see it, thank God.
Good. I'm not doing it again.
No, please never do it again, whatever it was.
My mouth felt suddenly dry and I looked like a lizard.
We've
all done that, surely.
The idea that creativity, therefore, should, if you're going to assess it. Now, I made, strangely enough, I did work for the QCA back in the day on assessment of creativity. I love this story. And part of that...
Have you got the pictures?
No, part of the tool was... Well, I have, but I don't know where. But, part of that was to put together a tool that involved
personal learning thinking skills.
Assessment, of personal learning and thinking skills, creative thinking, included the assessment not only of the teachers, but also fellow pupils. Now, the thing was, I never thought it was assessing creativity or creative thinking or anything else like that, but it was satisfying the bureaucrat's desire for us to say we are doing this. So it becomes a self-perpetuating thing. You say you're doing it because they say this is what it is. So just because you say it's creative thinking, then you say this is how you assess it, and then you take seriously the assessment. It becomes self-perpetuating. It doesn't mean it's actually assessing creativity.
Well, and this was exactly, and this was the underpinning logic for Ken Robinson's claim that schools kill creativity. So, do you know about the reasoning behind that claim?
Yes, but you go ahead. I mean,
okay. Well, you interject whenever. So basically, the adaptive uses test, which is not dramatically dissimilar from the OECD test, if anything, it's more blunt. It gives people an everyday object like a paperclip or a brick, and says how many alternative uses can you think of for this item? Alternative uses test. So essentially, the younger you are, the more like uses you think of. And in one of his TED talks, Ken sort of mentions 5-year-olds going, oh, you could have a 50-foot paperclip which you could use as a space hopper, and all sorts of stuff like that. And then the older you get, the fewer alternative uses you come up with. And Ken was basically saying, like, what's happened between being 5 and 15 is school, and school has hammered out all of the creativity from our young people. But actually, I think a better reading of that is that when you're 5, you've got maybe very little sort of consciousness of what the rest of the world is going to think is a good or bad idea. You don't know enough to be able to judge the the worth of your alternative use, and so you come up with an astonishing array of bullshit.
Any old shit.
Whereas as a 15-year-old, you go, no, that's stupid. I'm not going to suggest that because it's like obviously silly. 50-foot paperclip, no, nonsense. So you just come up with fewer but better suggestions.
Yeah.
And the alternative uses test doesn't judge that at all. It just is a raw metric of how many you come up with. So,
but isn't that how data works on things? The quantitative rather than the qualitative, and the qualitative is notoriously difficult to measure.
Exactly. So let's not bother.
Well, there is that. But then, of course, you could end up with an education system that doesn't value something because it's not measurable.
No, exactly. So I think I'm speaking for you, Martin, here, and you might want to disagree with me, but I think that the Martin Robinson position might be that the value of education is to provide children with the ability to make judgment and to discern and to be.
That's not the whole
more
thing,
able
but that's
to
one
say.
of the things. Yeah, that's certainly one of the things.
Well,
yeah.
Go on, tell us.
No, I don't want to go through the whole thing about what education's for, but at this point, in terms of creativity,
that's a bit of a cliffhanger. We're not going to find out what education's for
next time. But that's a whole podcast on itself, isn't it?
But, all right. That'd be a good one.
But yes, let's do that next time. But in the meantime, let's talk about creativity within that.
Yeah.
And if you're asking people to create work, then of course a huge amount of subjectivity is brought into the game, because if you're an arts teacher knows this all the time, that you're trying to make judgments based on prejudice. Your prejudice, their prejudice, everything else. And it's a conversational relationship rather than a hard and fast, that is the bottom line. That's definitely that, so you can't say that something's particularly unique or good or bad or whatever, but you do it through feeling, how you feel about it, and you do.
Yeah, but you can aggregate those feelings.
Well, and then we get the quantitative again, because just because a few people like it doesn't mean it's actually doesn't stand the test of time or doesn't stand the test of creative, whatever that is. So the qualitative is part of the discussion. Yes, something which you said, but if you just say it's a majority feeling, then the minority can be better, can also, this is how the elite works, isn't it? We have an elitist feel for this, that we know because we are
taste, Martin.
Taste, yes. We know how qualitatively good this is, whereas other people,
we know China wild ducks.
The hoi polloi don't know. So you look at your Amazon reviews, and just because you got 4,000 reviews probably means it's shit compared to something with 2 reviews saying how good something is, or something like that. How do the majority?
Depends who the reviewer is, doesn't it?
Well,
if Martin Robinson's reviewed it and says it's a corker, then it's good.
This is the trouble with the critic, isn't it? Because if you've got the critic that you trust and they're making judgments that you might follow, that's very different than 40,000 Amazon reviews. You've got no idea who these people are, but you just go on the quantitative data rather than anything else.
Well, I think that's true, and I think and you're right, and you can never escape from this completely. But I do think that's one of the things that I find very interesting and compelling about the use of comparative judgment for making decisions about the quality of a thing. And so Daisy Christodoulou's company No More Marking famously used that to judge the quality of pieces of writing, children's writing. But you can equally, and for fun, they've done it with things like opening lines of novels and things like that. There's also you could very easily do it with visual images. Which one do you think's better? And then the bigger the sample of people who are saying this one over that one gives you a sense, and it's not complete, and it's still, as you were sort of mentioning earlier, it's still going to be coloured by cultural beliefs and norms, but it gives you a bit of a better sense than simply saying somebody said that less often than they've said this.
Yeah.
Zibbity Boo Dong is more unique than.
But it suffers from the same thing, which is Van Gogh would probably fail his test at that point because the majority of people at that time didn't like it.
Yeah, no, and obviously,
So something truly creative, they say something truly creative comes into the world, the majority of people will hate it because it's too far.
It's too out there.
It's too out
Well,
there.
you're talking about the arts here, because is that necessarily true of science?
I don't know.
I mean, well, I suppose it is. I mean, that Charles Darwin got a lot of flack, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's because he was God hating, though, wasn't it? And believed we were all
Yeah.
monkeys or something
Well,
like that. You know.
Well, all of those kinds of responses were a real challenge to cultural norms. Yeah, absolutely. And so I've just, I've been reading a lot of John Fowles recently.
Yes,
French Lieutenant.
In fact, you did mention it that you were
Yeah,
reading
yeah.
French
Well, I
Lieutenant's
finished
Woman.
French Lieutenant's Woman,
and you moved on to
The Collector. And The Collector has some interesting kind of ideas about creativity. It's quite explicitly about sort of taste and art and originality and kidnapping. So, yeah, I know. And so the basic story of the Collector is that a guy wins the pools, becomes wealthy, kidnaps a woman he fancies, locks her in a basement.
Dear, this is rather disturbing.
I know. And then she sort of teaches him about art and culture and taste, or tries to, as you would. And it's a bit more complicated than that. But there's some really interesting discussions in there about, she's really scathing of his aesthetic, and also the fact that he's kidnapped her. Yeah, the kidnapping doesn't help. But because it's a novel of ideas as well as just plot, it's doing that kind of stuff. And the French Lieutenant's Woman had quite a bit to say about Darwin and his reception in Victorian society. And because he's doing this really self-conscious thing of pretending to write a Victorian novel and then stepping out of it with a 20th century kind of like, but he wouldn't actually have thought that, that kind of thing. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, we've gone off topic and no one cares.
It's very much on topic by the sound of it. I mean, it is talking about from, where taste comes from and who can we rely on to judge it. We can't really
absolutely.
Rely on anyone, really. But that doesn't mean it's not worth pursuing. The discussion is as important as the work itself.
Well, maybe it does mean that attempts to measure creativity aren't worth pursuing. Or do you think there's value in that?
Right. So hang on. There's two different things here. There's measuring creativity and measuring
whatever that
creative output. So a play, a book, a work of art, a piece of science, of research.
Yeah.
All of these things can be put up to judgment by others. And the judgment by others is going to not necessarily agree, including in the scientific field, I hasten to add. Yeah. And people are going to look at the thing, and the discussion becomes an important extension of the work itself. And it's when it's taken out, the death of the author, if you like, when the book is out there, it then takes on its own life and lives a life beyond the creator. So you can discuss about those sorts of things, and you can also discuss retrospectively, I suppose, the Shakespeare. How good was he? How good? What was his life like, etc., etc. Did it? But you can't say necessarily, and this is the difficult thing about being a creative teacher, that the creative act itself, the creativity itself is taken out of all the rest of it and measure that. You can try and make someone more creative. You can certainly do that. You can certainly teach people to be more creative within fields.
What, successfully?
Yeah, that's the job of whether it's a football manager or, or a teacher of drama or whatever it is. You're trying to make people be more creative in that field, literally in the case of football. You're trying to get them to do things, but you can't necessarily take that.
Well, you're trying to, but can you actually do it?
Can you try and make people more creative? Yes, I can.
No, absolutely you can try. I said that, but can you actually make them more creative?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Okay. How would you make me more creative,
This
Martin?
is like I'm saying, to take that bit out of the whole thing. So if I just say I'm making you more creative in that small
Yeah.
little instance, and then try and work
Little
out
c.
exactly what's been going on at that point, it's a complete waste of time, let alone anything else. The
Okay.
thing is, in the whole, in the round, you are making them more creative. Yes.
So can I just double check? 'Cause I'm not sure I've completely got this.
Yeah, please.
Are you
It'd
are
probably
you
help.
talking about?
Go on.
Might not. Are you talking about the domain specificity of creativity?
Yeah, bearing in mind you can cross domains and mix them up and play around with them. But yes,
Well, does being a creative dramatist lead to you being a more creative footballer?
no, that's what no. But
No. So,
hang
good.
on.
Okay.
But if you dive in the penalty area and feign injury successfully
Yeah.
and get your club a penalty and it goes in and you win
Yeah.
the cup because of it, you could say it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So,
you know,
did you give Maradona drama lessons?
well, you see, that's his hand of God in moment. But also, he was struggling with a lot of his other demons, of course. I mean, but
What, cocaine?
yeah, very much, and also connections to the mafia. But apart from that, and he's dead now,
Yeah.
so I think we can get away with saying those things. Apart from that, I think to take away the thing and say that's creativity, that thing,
Mm.
away from that domain, but say it's not
Yeah.
translatable to another domain. Yes, it is, because part of creative act is moving around domains and playing
Okay.
around with them
Okay. Well, let
and
me
things like
let me
that.
go
Go on.
back to the OECD thing then. So
Yeah,
those
which
sample questions we looked at, the bees and the
yeah.
planets, can that be transferred? Does that cross over into economic performance?
Well, I mean that would be extraordinary, I think, if it does. But
So
but
you're
but
skeptical.
but that this sort of link with creativity as an economic tool
Mm.
is your first instance. I mean, there are arguments that education is not economically, uh, it doesn't drive the economy.
No.
Education has tended to follow on when an economy
Yeah. Yeah.
becomes a
Yeah.
certain level, and
That was Alison
education
Wolf's
follows it.
argument.
Yeah.
I remember, yeah,
So
absolutely. That she looked at the fact, because the headline is uh, countries with more developed education systems or have more developed economies, but the economy comes first and the education
yeah,
follows. Absolutely. There aren't instances of education systems creating better economies.
yeah. So it's difficult to make those connections, I think.
Yeah.
And again, it's very difficult to
Wow. It's
take.
easy to make them, but
If you read
it's
your
hard to
Adam
take them
Smith and
seriously. Oh,
all these sorts
now
of
you're talking,
Scottish
Martin. Tell us about
Enlightenment
Adam.
writers,
Yeah.
that what they say drives an economy. Yes, I suppose the free market, all these things that come together. But to take out one thing and say creativity is the thing that drives all that is very unlikely. There's so many variables in these things, including the price of oil, literally,
Yeah.
that you have to take into account. It's too glib and simplistic to say by counting the number of bees and being original, that's going to affect your,
Yeah.
at the age of 15, that's going to affect your country's
Okay.
economy in a
So
positive way.
we're agreed on that I mean the OECD, bless them, even say this themselves, that their scoring approach was designed for scalability and reliability and cross-cultural comparability, and it's completely honest about this, it can't identify the most creative responses in each country or evaluate overall creative value of students' responses. So it kind of is saying that, but still managing to make the claim that
Still goes ahead with
somehow,
it.
yeah, I know. Shocking. Well, I mean, for me, this sort of this leads me to, just feeling even more despairing about the continued stubbornness of Andrea Schleicher to accept reality as it actually is.
Oh my goodness! And what is that?
Well, Schleicher, as you know, is the sort of education dude at the OECD, is the guy behind
I
PISA
know
and
who
all of
he
that
is. Yeah,
sort of stuff.
but
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
our listeners
you
and
do.
viewers might not. That's true.
They might not. They
I've
might
seen
not.
him speak,
Did you? Yeah, you said he looked very young.
but it was a long time ago. He looked
Yeah.
younger than he did in a AI recreation you made of him. But anyway, which we haven't got to show you, I'm afraid.
No, don't worry about that.
We could put
Good. So a long time ago, he looked younger than he does now. It's really interesting.
I did as well. He says the same about me.
Does he? Does he?
He does.
Yeah. I've not. I mean, he's basically, Stryker's an economist. He's not an educationalist, but he's trotted out as being an authority on education because he has this role at the OECD. And the thing that fascinates me about him is that he very much dogmatically pushes this line that creativity and 21st century skills and student-led approaches to education are absolutely right and evidence-based. And all his claims are contradicted by the findings of his own organisation. I find it fascinating that he's been able to do that for, 15 odd years with nobody saying, Andreas, what's going on?
Well, I think they probably do, but he's in such a vaunted position to ignore him.
Yeah, who's he accountable to? I don't know. Anyway, the fact that the national governments keep paying for him to make claims about creativity, not him necessarily, but that he comes out and sort of uses this to prop up his own vision of what he thinks reality is like. It's like climate change denialism, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't possibly comment.
Are you not going to? You're not. No biting from you on this.
No, but if the thing with all these education gurus, if you like, is that they've got a shtick, and no matter what level of but they're all trying to earn a living, aren't they? Basically, and they're either by keeping a job at an institution like the OECD or being an education consultant selling something
snake oil
particular. Well, not necessarily snake oil. There are consultants and consultants, as they say.
Oh no, okay, fair enough. But are there consultants selling creativity that you think are doing a decent job?
Famously over the years, yes, including Ken Robinson, obviously, who did very well out of it.
No, but was that so not did he do well? Obviously hugely popular, Sir Ken.
Well, there you go. So that your test on quantitative numbers of people sort of saying something's good.
Yeah.
Ken Robinson comes out of it very well.
Yes. What I'm asking you for your opinion on is, are people like Sir Ken selling this idea of teaching creativity to schools and education systems? Are they selling something worthwhile? Are they selling a message we should listen to and take seriously?
On two levels then, because I was involved in the NACI report. So
what's the NACI report?
The NACI report came out in 1999, 2000. And it's the report where you do that quote about what Ken Robinson said about creativity, what creativity is. That was the first part of that piece of writing done for the year 2000. As a creative futures and all this sort of stuff. As part of that, anyway, I went on a trip to Chicago. With a group of business and creative teaching leaders from London. And we went over there to watch what they were doing in Chicago to bring creativity into classrooms and all that. So I did a bit of teaching in Chicago, at which point one of the kids had a complete breakdown, had to be taken out by security, by the way. That was not my fault. He was apparently he was on drugs. So you can't blame my drama lesson for that. I didn't give them to him. I didn't sell him the drugs he was on in my lesson. But anyway, I went to this creativity classroom.
Missed a trick there, I think.
And it was talking about, it's a physics classroom, and they were talking about energy transfer. And they had 3 people.
Yeah.
And they had 3 actors demonstrated, and one between the two, and they were pushing the one between the two, and that was it. And then the pupils had to do the same thing. And that was the example. We were flown over all the way to Chicago. That was the example I saw. And
that was it.
Back. I must have seen some other things, but I just remember being completely sort of Is that it? Exactly that comment. Is
Is
that
that it? Very
Yeah,
Bob Geldof.
I might have said. And that, it was extraordinary, really, that this is something that perhaps we could have brought into our school. 3 actors. I mean, I know actors need work, but seriously.
Yeah. Well, maybe
It
there's a
wasn't my
reason why
greatest
they
part,
need work.
darling.
Those
Yeah.
actors.
Do you know, I got a BAFTA for tipping between 2 other actors. Yes, my greatest work. My greatest work.
Yeah.
Yeah, darling.
On the heath. Yeah.
So waste of time. So I creativity is as a sort of strange concept that hovers somewhere on its own, as though it can be dipped in and
Right.
put in places it doesn't necessarily belong. It's not helpful, but but to take the creativity out of schools in such a way, which I think is happening with the creative arts being reduced in schools, with creative writing being reduced, all these things that you could
Is it?
say, yeah, creative writing. I mean, the amount of people taking English as a level is reducing. I mean, certainly.
Well, they do endless creative writing in primary schools.
Right. Okay. I don't know if it's endless, but it must
Oh,
reach
they
an
do a
end at
lot.
some point.
I wish it would end.
It must have a full stop at some point.
Wow, that's a different.
An ellipsis, perhaps, but even then it ends, or does it?
Or does it?
But who is it who said ellipsis? You should have lists are very good. What's the guy with the big library?
Umberto Eco.
Eco, that's the one. Yeah, he loved an ellipsis. And he loved lists with ellipsis. He said, if you do a list, you must have an ellipsis at the end.
A list.
A list. A list.
Well, was he doing Richard III at the time?
No, that's a private joke, and we won't go there.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what that is. Okay, right. Well, so look, Martin, is creativity an inherently good thing then?
Of course it is. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Creative accounting.
Creative accounting, absolutely very useful. It doesn't mean it's a great thing legally, but
No.
You've certainly
Be creative with the truth.
That's an essential part of being a writer.
Is it an essential part of being a witness in a court case?
Where everyone has their viewpoint.
Well, they're not meant to make it up.
Are you saying the truth is always important?
No, what I'm saying is that creativity isn't inherently good.
No, you're just using the word creative in various different aspects to try and say these things are bad. But
I can come up with lots of creative ideas to do something evil.
You're saying, look, hang on, if someone's creative, and creative accountancy and things like that, it could be very good for the criminal.
Yeah. But is it the sort of thing we want to encourage in terms of like making people more creative?
Well, it depends how creative they are. I mean, they could be making sure that the tax man doesn't take too much of someone's money.
So, do we always want people to spend on
bombs?
Creative?
To spend on bombs?
Do we? Yeah, that would be strange if that's what they did.
What they do.
Spend it all on bombs.
Not all of it. Did I say all of it?
I think you did.
I didn't say all of it. You see, you're being creative with the truth.
Am I? Or mishearing? Yeah. Creative mishearing.
That's what we call it now, is mishearing.
Yeah.
I'm not being creative with the truth. I'm mishearing.
Yeah. Well, there's an overlap. There's a Venn. So is it better for people to come up with great new ideas or interesting new ideas than do what's been shown to work?
I think sometimes it's better to look at the opposite thing. If we have never created anything ever as a species, we wouldn't have got this far.
Which might be a blessing.
Well, speak for yourself, darling. But
it might be a blessing for the planet.
No, what are you saying? We're bad for the planet?
Yeah, we're like a plague, aren't we?
Well, you don't know what would have happened without us, do we? But anyway, let's say we'd never created anything. So on the whole, creativity does create good things. and some bad things. That's the way it goes. But creativity as a whole is something that we tend to do naturally, that can be honed, that can be specialized, that can be grown, that can be taught in aspects,
So,
fields, domains.
let's think a bit more about the teaching bit, because I think that this idea of little c creativity, this everyday creativity, the idea of combining an out, putting together clothes and having an outfit, or putting together ingredients and making a meal, that kind of everyday creativity. You can't teach that, can you? I mean, you can teach.
No, you can.
You can teach fashion. You can teach cookery, but you can't teach people to be more creative at every single thing ever.
Right. Again, we're getting quantitative over the qualitative. But if you
we're not interested in quality. We're interested in this little c coming up with.
If you aren't taught any creativity in the kitchen, you are very reliant on the ready meal and the microwave, perhaps.
I don't think creativity in the kitchen is what helps. I think actually what helps in the kitchen is being taught recipes.
Right. Well, or taking them from YouTube or BBC.
Yeah, if you can follow a recipe, then you can think, I could tweak it. I could. Maybe some cardamom would be good.
How's your recipe for the perfect roast potato? I mean, this is something that people can discuss till the cows come home.
It is, and obviously there are chefs who make refinements to the perfect roast potato, and if you or I wanted to have a go at creating the perfect roasty, we might be. The probability is we'd do better to try and follow someone else's recipe than create our own from scratch.
Yeah. Well, there's also the years and years of making roast potatoes at least once a
Badly.
week. No, and improving, and then discussing with others and finding out how they do it.
Is this what you do?
It. Over the years, I've got it cracked to a fine art.
Have you?
A fine art.
So what's
no,
so
you're going to have to find out. Wait till you get to my age, dear.
Okay, thank you. Is that would you say that's the essence of creativity? Doing something over and over and chatting to people about how you do it?
Because my perfect roast potato, it might be different to your perfect roast potato. So what I'm aiming for might be different. So I'm doing it in context.
But is it creative?
Yeah, because you're creating something, which is the roast potato.
Okay.
You're trying to.
So you're saying here that creativity is the act of making.
Very much so.
Okay.
It's the act of making something, and that making is in the broadest sense, because it could be a thought, it could be making some sort of, it could be making a play, making a pot, anything that comes, making a mess,
making a fool of yourself,
making a fool. Always, that's the best of all sorts of creativity, is making a fool of yourself.
So it's not even about uniqueness or about worth something being worthwhile. It's just simply the act of making.
Yeah, making something is creating something. Okay. So I mean, like God made the earth and all this sort of stuff. It has
in 7 days, no less. In 6. He rested on the 7th day, didn't he?
It's a long lineage of stuff.
Creative enough.
But making something, and making, like you say, making a mess, making a point. Making a poem, whatever you call it, it's creating something,
right?
Yes, and that is the essence of what schools need to keep, which is the idea that the pupil is making something at points.
So it doesn't have to be any good. It doesn't have to be unique. It just has to be.
It has to be that you're making something, and within that, you develop the idea of what is good. Is it good? How do I know?
Yeah.
All those things. And that becomes judgment. Yes. And you develop judgment, and you have to do that. But it's all based on, where judgment is. You have the courage of your convictions, things like that. Where does that come from? You have to be proven in the cut and thrust of debate and opinion and all that. But you're making something. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I think there's an interesting maybe discussion to have around the different takes, because I like you're right. that creating is making. They're kind of synonymous. But that when most people are talking about creativity, they do mean something else, don't they?
Well, most of it is the OECD and all these people, and Ken Robinson became guilty of this himself, is taking it over into the world of big business and the idea of driving the economy and the 7 habits of God knows, leaders and all this sort of stuff. It became taken up in the west coast of America into some sort of a guru's idea of what creativity is and why it's good for your business, and taken away from the actual
act of making. I've just looked up the etymology. Would you like to know?
Go on.
Well, it comes from the goddess, the Greek goddess Ceres, the goddess of agriculture, and so it in its original form it meant growing rather than making. That's interesting, is it? Growing ideas, growing beliefs and thoughts and a view of the world.
Yeah.
Is that
no? But that's
is that a
what's
definition
nice
of
about
creativity we can get behind.
What's nice about that is, of course, it doesn't divorce it from everybody else. In other words, when you're making something, creating something, you're doing that within the confines of the society
Shared
and
context.
the time in which you're in, and the fact that all thought and everything else we do is shared. It's not unique.
Yeah.
It never is unique.
No.
It does become part of the great conversation.
Okay. So if we're if it seems to me that what you're proposing here is that we jettison the idea of uniqueness. That's not the thing that's important, or not of primary importance.
That's primary importance and uniqueness. That ridiculous word I invented earlier shows you how completely useless uniqueness.
Zibbity boo dong.
No, it wasn't that, but it's close.
Okay, close. That's enough.
Chikmetihali.
Did you invent that?
But becoming unique isn't necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but it could be. You can just be glib and just be completely unique by doing something completely off the wall that's not of no help to anyone.
Okay, so the driving of human culture and human progress, and maybe even economic growth and progress, comes from a small amount of people going, "Oh, I've got an idea for how we could do that differently," and then a large amount of copying. So there's every now and again somebody will come along and tweak something or come out with something that nobody's done before, and if enough people think, "Oh yeah, no, that is a good idea. That does increase my chances of getting on in life and being safe and all the rest of it. I'll do that too." Then the idea becomes absorbed into the culture and becomes the bedrock on which we then build new iterations and new ideas. So we do need a small amount of people coming up with new stuff, but we don't want too much of that, do we? Too much of it would be unsettling and
I think we do
overwhelming.
Even when the Sex Pistols came along, people found that overwhelming and etc. Some people loved it. It wasn't that big a jump.
No.
It was rock and roll. Recognizing.
Yeah. So we need small iterations in order to absorb them into the cultural mainstream.
In terms of the acceptance of these things, I mean, with someone like we already talked about Van Gogh and other, at certain times these things are taken just too far, but that doesn't mean they won't be at some point. So, but it's the making of things. If Van Gogh, the Sex Pistols, they made these things. The pupil in your classroom, are they getting the opportunity to make things? That's what matters. Okay.
She's for that. Is there a risk? Is there a danger in telling children that they ought to be more creative?
Yeah, because that's a nonsense thing. But that's like just saying, go over there and be creative. You've got to give them the tools. There is there is a way of being more
No,
creative.
no.
There's a way of creating things. I mean, so being more creative is given the opportunity to create something within
What I mean,
confines, and it takes time. And this is the other thing.
yeah,
It's not just go
no.
over there and be creative.
Okay, let me rephrase my question, because that's not what I meant. Sorry. What I meant was, is there a danger in children believing in the definition of creativity as being unique and being special and being different, and changing the world? Is there a danger that children feel pressure to have that kind of creativity?
If you're trying to come up with 50 ideas for the paperclip, or 500 ideas for the paperclip, and more and more bizarre, etc., 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 and you think that's creative, then I think there's a danger in there of just thinking the quantity of craziness is what creativity is. But actually, what would be more useful is perhaps looking at different ways of putting paper together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. How else can you? Yeah. No. Okay. So, I mean, I suppose my instinct is that it really depends what you mean by creativity.
Yeah.
So you can't have a meaningful conversation about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, or whether you can teach it or whether you can't teach it, or whether you should teach it, if you don't pin down what you mean. And so we go from your quite constrained idea that teaching children to make things is a great thing, and I think I can't see any grounds for disagreeing with that at all.
But unfortunately, it's what happened is that if you look at the DT curriculum, I mean, the amount of making that has been reduced in the DT curriculum is absolutely criminal.
Yeah, but that's still a sort of narrowish understanding of what making is, isn't it?
Well, they're not even making.
Well,
they're writing about the possibility of making.
But isn't that
no, they're not making. No, because you're not playing with the tool itself, if you like. You're not working with wood. You're not. It's like the majority of the drama curriculum now is not making drama.
Right. So does that suggest that should apply to other subjects? Do we want children to make science and make mathematics?
I don't think it matters what I've got to say about whether that should happen in science or not. I think there's the thought is.
I agree.
The thought is that whether you have to make something in science, whether it be an atom bomb or whatever it is, that the outcome of a science course, I do not know. But let's put that to the side. Let's put that to the side. Why there is something about this is the idea that you must learn knowledge first. At the end of having a lot of knowledge, then you can go out and be creative because it's natural. But the point is the amount of knowledge, and that is never answered carefully or thoughtfully. There's not a huge amount. You don't need 100% knowledge in school and then leave school and then become creative. In some
can you have 100% knowledge?
No, and you're forgetting practical knowledge within that. The knowledge of making the roast potato, if you like, the experience of doing it, which is important, and that is completely forgotten in far too many subjects in school. Whether that be physics or not, I do not want to comment.
No, because I don't know. If creativity is a good thing, the way to get more of it is to have kids doing things, using the tools of the subjects that they're learning.
Yeah.
Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've arrived at a quite a good natural place to finish off there, haven't we?
We have indeed.
I mean, there's some closing comments that we could make. I think whether or not creativity matters, that isn't really the point. The point is to work out what we mean by it, and that maybe ignore the idea of international assessments. That doesn't really tell us anything. Closing thoughts from you, Martin?
Keep making.
Keep on making.
Keep on making.
Yeah. Wow. That should be our catchphrase. Keep making shit podcasts.
Hey. And on that note.
Okay. I know. Sorry. Well, it's your time you've wasted.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.